You stopped mid-sentence, not because you forgot what you were saying, not because it wasn't important. You stopped because they started talking. And some part of you decided, without even thinking about it, that what they had to say mattered more than what you were about to. You've done this your whole life, and you've never once questioned it. The part that should bother you is this. You're not even angry. You probably should be. You were mid-thought, mid-feeling, and they just walked right over it. But instead of frustration, what you actually feel is something quieter, something that sounds less like, "How dare you," and more like, "Yeah, that's fair." And this is where the pattern hides, not in the interruption, in how quickly you disappear. There are two habits happening at the same time. They speak before there's space, and you make space before anyone asks. One habit explains why they cut in, the other explains why you vanish. Let's start with your friend. Researchers who study conversation patterns, what linguists call cooperative overlap, found something that doesn't fit the story we tell about interrupters. They're not always arrogant. They're not always trying to dominate. In many cases, they're not even aware they're doing it. The first reason is neurological. People with ADHD can struggle with inhibitory control. The brain's ability to hold a thought back until the right moment. The thought arrives, and it comes out immediately. For them, it doesn't feel like an interruption. It feels like connection. I know exactly what you mean. That happened to me too. Yes, yes, keep going. In their mind, they're not cutting you off. They're reaching toward you. And if this gives you words for something you've felt for years, like this video and subscribe. This channel is for the small moments that quietly explain why relationships hurt. The second reason is cultural. Linguist Deborah Tannen spent decades studying conversation across cultures, and she found that in many communities, talking over someone can signal engagement, not disrespect. Silence means you're not interested. Overlap means you're in it. These aren't automatically rude people. They're people whose definition of listening looks different from yours. The third reason is the one that stays with you. Some people interrupt because they grew up in homes where the only way to be heard was to be louder. 3 siblings at a dinner table, a parent who only had attention for whoever spoke first. You didn't learn to wait your turn, because waiting your turn meant disappearing. The interrupting isn't always aggression. It's a survival reflex that never got updated. None of this makes the interruption hurt less, but it does mean something important. Almost every time your friend cuts you off, it has nothing to do with the value of what you were saying. It's about the pressure building inside them. But your silence has its own history. So the real question isn't why they interrupt. It's why your voice leaves so easily. Think about what happens in that moment. They interrupt, and you go quiet. Not after a fight, not after saying, "Hold on, I wasn't done." You just fold, smoothly, almost automatically, like you'd been waiting for the cue. Psychologists call this conversational self-silencing, and it doesn't come from nowhere. When children grow up in environments where their words are consistently talked over by a parent, a sibling, anyone with more volume or authority, they learn something, not consciously, but deeply. They learn that speaking is a risk, that finishing a sentence is something you have to earn, and that if someone interrupts you, it probably means you were taking up too much space anyway. So they stop, before they're even asked to. And here's where it gets harder to hear. You don't just tolerate being interrupted. On some level, you seek it out. Not because you enjoy it, but because it's familiar. Your nervous system recognizes the pattern. Someone talks over me. I go quiet. This is what closeness feels like. Psychotherapist Terry Real calls this an adaptive survival strategy, something that protected you once and now runs on autopilot long after the threat is gone. You learned that it's safer to be unheard than to insist on being heard and get rejected for it. So you built a life around people who confirm that belief. The friend who interrupts, the colleague who talks over you in meetings, the partner who finishes your sentences before you get there. You didn't choose them despite this pattern. You chose them because of it. You're not hurt that your friend interrupts you. You're hurt because every time you go quiet, you prove to yourself again that your voice wasn't worth fighting for. That's the wound underneath. Not being interrupted. Abandoning your own sentence. Here's what the research shows about chronic interrupters. Most of them don't know they do it, not until someone tells them. Calmly, without accusation, without making it a referendum on their character. Not, you never let me finish, but, hey, I wasn't done. Give me one more minute. That's it. That's the whole intervention, and studies on conversational repair show it works, not because it shames the other person, but because it gives them information their brain genuinely didn't have. Your friend probably isn't waiting for you to get angry. They're waiting, without knowing it, for you to hold your ground. So maybe this was never only about their timing. Maybe every person who's ever talked over you has accidentally shown you the same place where you leave yourself. Will you stop? Or will you finish the sentence, and maybe the pattern ends the same way it started? Not with a confrontation, not with a long conversation about communication styles, but with one quiet, firm decision. I'm not done yet. 3 words. That's the whole thing. Because the friend who interrupts you isn't the whole story. The part of you that learned to disappear mid-sentence, that's what this was always asking you to see. If this made you remember a moment where you swallowed your own sentence, like the video and subscribe. There are more videos here about the invisible patterns that shape how you let people treat you.